Hey, everybody out there in Radio Land. Thank you for tuning into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. You are listening to us here in your ear, having the conversations that you need to hear. We are on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. If you are watching us online, hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Hit a retweet and drop a comment. Be part of the conversation. We want to hear from you. Okay, join in the conversation, drop a comment. We'll try to pop it up on the screen. And definitely, even if you don't have anything too much to say, just put in the comments an American flag or a thumbs up and let us know that you're out there watching. Say hello. Be part of the show. So let's jump into the show today. Thank you for tuning into The Divide. You're listening to the conservative voice of New York State. We are here in your ear having the conversations you need to hear. Man, have we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. But what I'd like to start off with first is the show before us. The guy is a raging communist, right? Like a raging communist. He calls himself a Democrat, socialist, whatever. But, you know, he made an interesting point about Trump's tariffs. And we've talked about the tariffs on this show before. He said what Trump did was cut the taxes for the businesses and cut the property taxes for the businesses before he put the tariffs on, so that way, when he put the tariffs on, it would be offset by the tax cuts that the businesses already got. And I was like, well, you know what? That kind of sounds like a masterful plan. That's like really, really smart and intelligent, a very smart thing to do. But you heard the Democrats scream and fight and kick and moan, talking about, oh, the tariffs are going to raise all of the costs and all of the prices of all of the goods and stuff like that. And here we got this communist socialist guy talking about, yeah, the Trump put on the tariffs, but he offset the cost for businesses so it wouldn't actually impact the people on the ground. I said, it's crazy to me that a communist can say that and give the president some credit for doing something when regular Democrats can't even do that. Like, what is going on here? Like, can we not have that conversation? I think that we should be having that conversation. That sounds very, very important to me. Because what often happens, and I think that this is something that bothers me the most about politics, especially nowadays, is that we see a whole bunch of issues where there's this thing that I like to call teamification, right? So I'm a registered Republican, right? So in my case, if I was a registered Republican, I've got to go with my team. I'm not like that, right? But most Democrats, if you see them, they got to go their team. Nothing can ever be wrong. And it's only their team that can ever be right about anything. There are a lot of Republicans that do that too. But we have to understand that this isn't the way that American politics should be, because it's not even supposed to be or constructed to be a two-party system. This is something that developed over decades and centuries to be this way. And it's really not the way our nation is supposed to be. And it doesn't actually give the best actual representation because of the current power structure. It's also why there's so much kick the can politics, where nobody really wants to make the hard decisions that are necessary to address the issues that the common man is facing. And if you follow me frequently, I'll talk about how the government is actually against the people, because that's what it is. The government is a giant behemoth that is against the American people. And it's like that because it is a power structure. And any power structure is going to consolidate power at the top. So what's happened in America is all of the power is consolidated at the top with the elites, with the ultra wealthy, and with the old money families. Like, we can't act like this isn't what's going on in our nation. And more people need to have this open conversation so that when we do run into these different issues and we see that our team isn't addressing these issues, that we're like, hold on a second, who are you really representing? You know, and a lot of people say, oh, well, elections are where we hold people accountable and stuff like that. You got to hold them accountable when they're in office too. Like, what are you doing? You don't just get out and vote. And right now, the scariest thing is so many people don't vote. Like 75% of people don't vote. Now, depending on where you are, that number might change a little bit. but greater than 50% of the general population in most areas does not vote. And that's very, very problematic. But also, we end up with the fact that most people that go out and vote aren't even politically inclined, because politics, why bother, right? Well, we should bother with politics, because politics affects you every day in your everyday life. The most important thing about politics, and I think people forget this, they'll say, oh, well, I don't want to talk about politics, or it doesn't affect me. Yes, politics affects you. Politics is very basic on most routes. You look at it, do you want your toilet to go flush? Yes, I want my toilet to go flush. That's politics. Do you want your snow plowed outside when it's wintertime and you live in the city? That's politics. Do you want your garbage picked up? That's politics. Do you want clean water to come to your house? That's politics. Like, all of these things are politics, and people try to write it off like, oh, well, I don't want to be political, or I don't want to get political. Yeah, no, there aren't very many things that we can actually talk about that politics doesn't impact. I mean, depending on where you live, and some of you know this better than others, politics impacts what the color of the sky is. Okay, we can talk about that for real, but we'll talk about that maybe another time. This is a real conversation that we need to open up and have. I see you guys dropping some comments there. Thank you guys for the comments. I'll pop them up in a second as soon as we finish the monologue. So as we talk about these important conversations, we need to identify that it is not about just your team. It is about, where are the results that have been promised you? Where are the issues that need to be addressed, getting addressed? And is anybody addressing those issues at all? I live in a city for 60 years. It's been all Democrats. Democrats run everything. They control everything, absolutely everything. There hasn't been one other person in office from another party. So when we talk about what's going on here, it's very clearly only the fault and accountability that can go to the Democrats, because they're the ones in office. It's their policies. It's their budgetary focuses. It's all of those type of things, and the legislation that they do. And they can't separate themselves from that, but they'll try to say, oh, well, it's the Republicans. How? Please explain it to me like I'm 5, how it could be the Republicans if there are no Republicans in office and haven't been for 60 years. Now, I bet you if you live in a, hey, I see you there. I bet you if you live in a red state, and if you have a similar issue with your state or your city where you are, it's the same type of situation. But that's what happens when we get people that are so caught up in this Democrat-Republican teamification, and they're like, oh, my team can do no wrong. No, your team definitely can do wrong, especially when it's in control of every aspect of a branch of government. Like if they control everything in your local government, or if they control everything in Congress. If there was a supermajority in Congress, in the House, and in the Senate, and the presidency, okay, that's a supermajority. And then maybe people need to be held accountable for what they're doing or what they're not doing. Right now in the Congress, we don't have a supermajority. We've got a very slim majority for the Republicans. But under, under Obama, there was a supermajority, House and Senate. Now, why didn't the things get addressed that were supposed to get addressed during that time period? Like DACA, the DACA people are still butt out in the air. You know what I'm saying? Like flapping in the wind. Like they never did anything for them. And they've always promised that they're going to take care of them, and they never have. And then they blame it on Republicans. Oh, well, look at the Republicans, don't care about them. They never claimed to care. But when you had the supermajority, you did nothing. Then when you had Biden as president, you did nothing, And then people say, oh, well, look at what Trump's doing and this and that and the third. Let me point this out to you very, very importantly. The president has little to no effect on what's going on in Congress. They can do some trade stuff. They can do some other stuff, some military stuff, but they really don't have that much control of anything. And you can see that right now with our current president, because the Democrats fight him on absolutely everything. Everything he tries to do. If he tries to take a poop in the morning, there are the Democrats with a lawsuit against him taking a poop. You're taking a poop before noon, you can't take a poop. It's ridiculous. They fight him tooth and nail, and then they say, oh, well, he's a king. He's a king, and you fight him over breakfast? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this serious? Like, They don't even conceptually understand what that level of despotism or tyranny or even just rulership, right? Like just plain rulership. They don't understand what any of that would even look like, because they're saying, oh, well, he's a king. Really? Because you guys got a lot of court cases against this man. So clearly he's not a king. Because if that was the case, everybody be locked up in jail. A lot of y'all would be missing. Okay. Y'all families would never know where you were going. So who is behaving as a king when you can still use lawfare to get injunctions to stop him from doing what needs to be done? Hello. What are we talking about? And again, some people will say, oh, well, you're just talking because you don't like Democrats or whatever the case is. That's not true. Do you listen to me? You need to actually listen to me talk. I don't like big government. I am very adamantly against almost everything on the federal level. Why? Because I believe in small local government. I am an anti-federalist. I don't believe that the federal government should have as much power as it is. I believe the federal government needs to be shrunk. I think that 75 to 85% of all of the departments of the federal government could be poof gone tomorrow and you wouldn't know the difference. As we saw during the shutdown, the majority of everybody's life, unless they were actually working for the government, wasn't really impacted. It wasn't really impacted. Maybe if you took a flight, because the FAA are the people that run the people in the towers. What do you call those people? You guys know who I'm talking about. The air traffic controllers. You know what I'm saying? But these are conversations that are real conversations that we don't actually have. And people get too attached to all of these jobs in government. Why do we need such a big government? Well, it's an employment scheme. It's a self-perpetuating employment scheme because the government does not create anything to generate its own taxes. That's another reason why the tariffs are so important, because that's really the only place that the government itself can get money, unless it's stealing it out of your pocket. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. I see quite a few people watching, not enough people hitting that heart button. So hit the heart button, drop a comment real quick. I'm going to pop up some of your guys' comments. We got Jessica R. Jessica says, hey, Jessica, how you doing today? Good to see you watching. And then it says, we got, who we got? I can't see what that says. Let's go up some. We got quite a couple of these here. Let's see. Show more. How do I do that? Okay. Let's go up. Let's go down. We got, who's this? Can't see what that says. Says, if you're voting changed, things they wouldn't let you. Why is it like that? Sorry, guys, I can't see that very good. If your voting changed anything, they wouldn't let us do it. No, that's not true. And then it says, and this is Static Savage. He says, he says you should vote, LOL. Well, listen, if you're not going to vote, if you don't want to vote, you take that and shove it in your nose, okay? Because that means that you don't care about our nation. It means that you don't care enough to get politically involved and you want to discourage people from getting active. So as far as I'm concerned, you're a Fed. You work for the Feds. You're trying to make it so that people don't get out and vote so that the government can do whatever it wants. So people like you are the absolute problem, okay? Thank you for commenting. I appreciate your comments. Thank you for your time. Somebody says, who's this? Says Rosie. Rosie says the federal government is just an assisted living facility paid for by the U.S. That's absolutely 100% what it is. And we need to have a serious conversation about that, because they take way too much of our tax money and do way extra nothing. Now, the following things are two types of taxes that I don't think should be in existence at all: property tax and taxes on your income. Because you work for the money, you should be able to keep it, right? You bought the property, why are you still paying taxes on it? Okay, it's just a form of indentured servitude to the government forever. Somebody should challenge that in court. There should be no way that that stands. You know, I've always had a question about property tax. It doesn't make any sense. You know, maybe we all need to look into allodial titles or something like that. But whatever the situation is, this system needs to change. This system needs to change, because if you paid for it, you should own it. Hit the like button, hit the share button, drop a comment. I'll try to pop you up and make you part of the conversation. We're going to answer, I think we got one more. Okay, we got that already. Let's continue on with the conversation. Now, right now, a lot of you guys know about what happened with Charlie Kirk and his assassination. Make sure you guys online hit the share button and get this out, share it with more people, and hit the heart button. It don't cost you nothing to do to share or a heart. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe, okay? So let's talk about Charlie Kirk's assassination real quick. So Charlie Kirk was assassinated. We all saw it. It was broadcasted everywhere. You know, we got a lot of people on the left cheering his death on, and oh, that's what should be done to all the conservatives or whatever the case is. We got people on the right talking about, this is why we should make sure that we expand government surveillance and other nonsense. And the people on the left are like, this is why we need more gun control. Both of those things are stuff that Charlie was very much so against. And we got people on the right talking about, oh, we need to rein in free speech because of that. Man, what? What a disgrace. How you disgrace his legacy and his name. You know, so, but I wanted to talk about that because I appreciate you. Who's that? Eric? Eric says hi. Hi, Eric. But I appreciate that we can have an open conversation, you guys and me, because we need to have these conversations. Because if they murdered Charlie and instantly you got the right talking about we need to curtail free speech, you got the left talking about we need to get rid of all the firearms, look at how the government is working together against the common man. The government doesn't want you to have firearms because they don't want you to be able to defend yourself from the government. The whole purpose of the Second Amendment is to be able to defend yourself from the government. Okay. And people were like, oh, well, the government's got F-16s and F-35s and you couldn't fight the government. It's not about that. It's about being able to stand up and protect your property and protect your own home. And if I got, I don't know, what is it, $35 million to buy an F-16 or whatever it is, not an F-16, F-35, I don't know how much those cost. Dropped it in the comments. I forget how much they cost right now. The price on them went down. But if I got the money to buy one of them, I should be able to buy one of them. I'd actually, honestly, personally like a couple of tanks. There are a couple of different variations that I'd like, you know, just for fun and for action if necessary. But I really do like a lot of the, I call it drone artillery that's out there now that I see that's coming up. That's really interesting to me. And a lot of the drone defense stuff is very interesting. If it was up to me, I'd buy one of the Rods from God satellite. You know, well, what's Rods from God? It's a giant satellite that the DARPA theorized they could put in outer space, and they could shoot down tungsten rods into the ground and anywhere in any given portion of the world. And it would impact so hard kinetically because of the force of the tungsten rod that it would cause an impact that would create the actual force of an atomic bomb going off with no radiation. I always thought that those were really cool. If I had the money, I'd like to be able to buy one of those. You know, I'm not saying I'm trying to take over a small nation state, but I should be able to buy one if I want to. Look at all the defense contractors. We got defense contractors with their own private armies. I need to be able to protect myself when it comes to that stuff too. Because governments hire out their dirty work and their wet work to people in these different companies and stuff like that. What's Blackwater called now? Whatever Blackwater turned into. And we got a number of other ones too. But I bring up the Charlie Kirk murder and his assassination because just the other day, this is very important. And I encourage you guys always, I tell you, I said, don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm telling you, because I'm going out of my way to tell you. So that's why you should believe it. But also go look it up. What's his name? Kash Patel. Y'all know I like me some Kash Patel, and I was really having high hopes for him, but I'm not very happy with him right now because he shut down the investigation from the Department of Homeland Security under the counterterrorism department that was being run by, what's his name? John Clark. Okay, John Kent, excuse me. John Kent, because he was looking in to see if any of the foreign interests might have had something to do with Charlie Kirk's death. And Kash Patel shut that down. Well, how are you going to shut that down when that's something that we really need to look at? Like, it's crazy that he just shut that down like that. Like, is this what we're doing? It's unacceptable. We got a couple conversations. Let's see what we got. A couple people commenting. David says, hi. Hi, David. I appreciate you commenting. We got, David says, how's your day? David, it's going good. I appreciate you commenting. Every comment helps a lot, you guys. So just drop out some comments, hit the thumbs up, Thank you so much for keep commenting. All of those comments help an immense amount to kick the algorithm to get it out to more people. So even if you guys just do a thumbs up or whatever. Okay, somebody made a comment. Let's see. Hayes, let's see. Okay. It says, I agree with you. I hope someday you can get into the government to help protect our constitutional rights. Listen, I'm fighting very hard to work on encouraging people to get active and make a difference. That's Brian Marlene Marvin Hayes. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you. That might be a husband and a wife. I can't quite tell from the screen, but yeah, it's important that we stand up for our constitutional rights. Like, people forget, and I try to emphasize this so much. Yes, I am a Republican. Yes, I stand on business for Republican foundational, and this is very important, foundational values and principles, okay? And the question is, well, why? Well, because right now, if you look at the Democrat Party, there used to be conservative Democrats, and they're either silent or gone. They don't exist anymore, practically. You know, people say, oh, well, Marcus, you're a conservative, whatever the case is. I said, most average, everyday people that are Black Americans are conservative. Well, how is that possible if they're Democrat? Because they don't know any better, because they've been taught wrong. And when you're taught wrong, you go along with what you know to be true, because that's how you were taught. And we need to have those serious conversations, but they don't want you to have those serious conversations. And that's a big reason why we've got all of this teamification, and nobody can see out of their eyes, and they're just feeling with their emotions. Are you serious? That's not a way to make decisions. Like, we can't have that. Like, that's part of the biggest issue that we have in our nation right now. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Let's get into a couple of different things. We got another comment. David says, good for you, David. Yep. You busted the sub. Thank you. Okay. And these are important conversations. Let's talk about what's going on right now with the government, right? We've got Pam Bondi. Okay. Pam Bondi is I don't know. I guess she's the attorney general. I'm really trying to wonder who she actually serving, because it's very clear that she's not serving the American citizens. There is a court case that Gun Owners of America took to court as far as the NFA, okay, the National Firearms, the National Firearms Act, right? And she went back, and her thing with that was like, well, we should keep the National Firearms Act because it's another source of tax revenue for the government. What? What? Whose side are you on? Question mark. Because clearly you're not on the side of the people saying anything crazy like that. Oh, well, it gives more taxes to the government, so we should keep it when that limits our constitutional rights? Like, what are we even having a conversation about here? How is that even a conversation? Like, that's crazy, wicked work. You understand what I'm saying? And this is Pam Bondi. Wicked work, y'all. How are you going to say that we should keep the NFA when it's harming our right and limiting our right, infringing on our right to legally own firearms, making it more cost prohibitive, making people jump through hoops, when the criminals out here got all types of guns, stuff you ain't never seen. Stuff that people don't even have in regular war. You know what I'm saying? Crazy, wicked work. And this is supposed to be a Republican, right? So again, it goes back to show you this teamification stuff is nonsense. If somebody ain't gonna stand on the Constitution, I'm not standing with them. Do you hear me? Can you dig it? Okay, I don't care, Democrat, Libertarian, Republican, Working Families Party, Constitution Party, I don't care what you are. If you don't stand by the Constitution, I don't stand by you. And we need more constitutional conservatives to stand up. But they don't want to. And that's problematic. And that's why I stand, and I pray that you will too. And I encourage you, hit the like button, hit the share button. Don't cost you nothing. Drop some comments, because that helps the algorithm. And share this out, because it very much so helps. Let's see, we got another comment. Let's see, who's this? Says Rosalind, civics exams should be required to obtain voter ID. Okay, Rosalind, that's a good conversation to have. Let's talk about voter ID real quick. Most Americans believe that we should have voter ID. Point blank, okay? We're at like an 85% of American population, maybe a little bit more, believe that we should have voter ID. We do not have voter ID. Whenever you see, and I'm glad you brought this up, this works into another topic we're going to have. So with the voter ID, people are like, oh, well, black people can't get ID because they're dumb. Who? What? Who told you that? I'm black. I have ID. I even got my passport. Like, what are we talking about? Like, who are you to say that black people are too dumb to get an ID or they're too poor to get an ID? Now, if you look at any states that have voter ID, they will issue you a free ID just to vote. Hello? Is this thing working? Tap, tap. Let me tap this microphone because clearly there are some people that aren't understanding how voter ID works. You understand what I'm saying? And where I live, you can get a non-driver's ID for $15. $15. You understand what I'm saying? Like and I live in New York State, and we got dead people on our voter rolls that I know are dead. What does it say? Date of births, registrations back in the early 1900s. Come on now, stop playing in my face. I seen one the other day is like 200 and something years old, almost as old as the country. Ain't no way that person's alive. Why can't we have voter ID? Why can't we have that conversation? And then I saw, what's his name? The guy that sleeps with the Chinese spies, Eric Stilwell, okay, from California. He's like, oh, I want to make it easier for people to vote. I think they should be able to vote for phone. B-I-T, you know the rest of the letters. What are we having a conversation about, Eric Stilwell? You want people to be able to vote by phone? Man, where's my glove? Because we need to have a duel. I need a white glove. Somebody send me some white gloves right now. I got to slap this man in the face so we can have a duel outside because one of us got to go after that insanity come out his mouth. Are you serious? You want them to be able to vote by phone? Who? And then he's like, well, if we can pay our taxes over the phone, if we can prepare our taxes over the phone, you can't prepare your taxes over the phone. You can't. That's not how that works. Okay. And then if you think that is secure, you make it make sense. We're not even it's just so frustrating to even have a full conversation about that. Like it's because it like drains the intelligence from your brain trying to have that level of a conversation. Because clearly that's a non-starter. Vote by phone. What? Is this the freaking what you call them people? The Masked Singer or America's Got Talent or something like that? Like, we're not doing no vote for phone, Eric Stilwell. I don't know how he's still in Congress when we know that he was sleeping with a Chinese spy. Like, how does that guy even still in Congress? He needs to be in prison somewhere, and he definitely shouldn't be able to be in government ever. Ever. For years, he was messing with her. Like, he's probably an agent of China right now. We can talk about that further at another point. I don't want to really jump into him too much right now, but I did want to bring that up, that vote by phone nonsense, because you guys need to be aware of what these people that are in office are saying, because they mean what they say. They always tell you what they're going to do ahead of time. Hit the like button, drop a heart, drop a comment, even if it's just a wavy hand and saying, hey, we got some comments in. Let's see what we got. Let's see. We got to go back a little bit. Rosalind dropped some American flags. Thank you for those American flags. Yes. Let's see. We got a spam message talking about they're going to pay us for more people to watch. We don't want none of that nonsense. We want organic watchers. So definitely hit the like button, hit the share button, drop some comments. Every comment helps. Okay. So this is important stuff that we're having a conversation about. And if we don't have these important conversations, nobody else is going to. Nobody else is going to. Now, I want to jump into a couple of other topics real quick, because it is important that we cover some of the other stuff going on too. Hey, John, I see you there. John says this is why you should be in Congress. John, I appreciate your support from your lips to the Lord's ears. Okay. And if you guys are watching us online, if you're watching us online, definitely check out the sides right here. If you're watching us long format, okay. Or if you're watching us on vertical format, check out right down here. Okay. Check that out. Give to the cause. Let's see what we got going on. The federal judge dismisses the indictments against Letitia James and Comey, excuse me. That's very interesting. So now those got thrown out. I don't know where that's going to go. Now, the Letitia James one, I wonder, is that the one with the property one? Because there's no way that that should have been thrown out. It's very interesting what's going on and how they keep doing interesting, unique stuff in the court system. We just had a court filing here where I live, where the federal government is suing Rochester, New York, over the sanctuary city laws, saying that they essentially go against federal laws. And they're right. Now, when I saw that decision come out from the judge, it was like nobody even read the decision. Drink water, stay hydrated, y'all. But it was like nobody even read the decision that the judge said. Now, the judge threw out the case. His name is Geraci. I remember when he was running for office up here. But he threw out the case, and he made it very simple and plain. He said, I threw out the case because I didn't know what the federal government wanted as a remedy if they were to win. And I think that people should understand that that means a lot. He said, I don't know what they would want as a remedy, and I don't know how I would even adjudicate that because I don't know what the remedy is that they want. And they were not clear about what they wanted as a remedy if they win the case against the sanctuary city. And everybody was out there celebrating, yay, yay, look at this, we defeated Trump, boo-hoo, yay. And I'm like, what even are you guys talking about? Did you read the decision? So that means that the federal government, if they decide, can put another case forward out there and say, hey, listen, we want to outline expressly, these are the remedies that we want. And then they can win the case. Like, so people don't think about this stuff. And what's really concerning is a lot of the lawfare that's being used against the federal government right now because Trump is in office. And it's concerning for two reasons. But the number one reason is that the same people that are like, oh, well, we think that the government is doing too much right now, but you're setting the ground for them to do even more. You're setting the groundwork for the government to infringe more on rights and liberties, to have a more top-down authoritarian ability. These people out there are doing these stuff like firebombing ICE vehicles and stuff like that, shooting ICE officers, going out there acting a wild, rapid fool. Okay? Like, what do you think that's going to make happen? You think that the government's going to back down or the government's going to stack up? You know, you're only putting yourself in a position where the government's going to stomp down on people. I don't want that. I've been fighting in New York State against that for years because Governor Kathy and before her, Governor Cuomo want to use the National Guard for all types of ridiculous nonsense and push martial law. In New York State, these are both Democrats. But can we talk about Cuomo and Kathy trying to push martial law? No, nobody wants to have that conversation because of this ridiculous teamification. My team, my team, my team. Democrats just act like COVID didn't happen. Like they didn't throw up checkpoints where you had to show your Vax ID. Like they didn't have the National Guard checking ID, Vax passes. Like act like that didn't happen. Like they didn't have the National Guard in the subway system talking about they doing policing, and that's not what the National Guard is supposed to do, and that's not what the National Guard is supposed to be used for. Hello. National Guard is a military wing. They are not police law enforcement. Then they had the nerve to put the National Guard as correctional officers in the prisons. You guys, you got to wise up. You got to smarten up. Pay attention to what these people are doing, even if it is your team. All of them, gross aggregate, on the top level or government, are working against the people, snatching away our freedoms and liberties and empowering the government more so every single day. It doesn't matter whether they're Democrat or Republican. You got to be on the watch for this. We got very few people on either side that'll stand on business almost all of the time. And we need to understand that. We need to understand that. I just saw the people out there protesting Donald Trump talking about oh, well, this is what democracy looks like, and no kings, and they do this every Wednesday in front of the federal building here in Rochester, and no kings, and voter ID is bad, and no person is illegal, and like 12 or 13 different other things. None of them have any relation or overlap. None of them. They're just all considered leftist causes. You know, I see the pro-Palestine nonsense and signs with right next to the gay people signs. And now I shouldn't say gay people. I should say alphabet people, because it's not about the gay people. The whole leftist movement has thrown the gay people to the side, and now it's all about trans and furries and what do you call them other ones? Oh my goodness, what do they call them? Minor attracted people, really, the pedophiles. Like, it's all about that. Like, that's what they're pushing on the left. They've long time ago left the gay people alone, left the lesbians alone. Now they got men going in women's bathrooms. If you guys saw the video of the lady in California, I believe it was LA County, she was going into a what's the gym? I can't remember what type of gym it was. I think it was a Planet Fitness, but she went into the gym and it's a whole behind man in the bathroom in the ladies' locker room. And they passed a law here in Rochester talking about men can be in the bathroom with little girls and women, and in the shower facilities and bathing facilities and dressing rooms and this and that and the third. And, you know, and people say, oh, well, that's homophobic. I said, well, it don't say nothing about you got to be gay to do that. It says gender identity. That means you think in your head, or you said out your mouth that you believe that you something that you aren't. Okay? That's a psychosis. There's something wrong with that. Or you're just lying, one of the two, especially when you can be a 310-pound, 6'9" man with a full beard going in the bathroom with a little girl, and you're going to tell me that this man believes that he's a woman? Okay, when he's not even presenting like a woman? Stop playing in my face. And that's this whole gender identity nonsense trash garbage. Okay, and then they got in the law that they have here in Rochester, it also says closest to gender identity, or, and this is the crazy part, or gender expression, not and. It would have been a much more reasonable conceptual law. I would have still been against it because it's crazy altogether, but it would have even made more sense if it said gender expression and gender identity, right? So at least you got both. But no, gender identity or gender expression. How do you even reconcile that, right? Because that means that I could just put on a muumuu and go into a women's bathroom. Like, are you serious? Gender expression, I'm expressing myself as a woman because I'm wearing traditional woman clothing. Like, what are we doing here? And this is continued deterioration of safety and of reasonable sense. And they want you to fall into that trap because they don't want you to stand up. They don't want you to push back. And they'll tell you, oh, you look bad. But the lady that it happened to that went off was a whole lesbian. She's a whole butch. You understand what I'm saying? She was a whole butch lesbian, mad that there was a whole full man in the bathroom with her, in the showers with her, looking at her, oogling her naked body and other women. Is that what we're turning our society into? We need to have a serious conversation. Now, real quick, hold tight. We're gonna talk about this real quick. Thank you guys for tuning into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear, having the conversations that you need to hear on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. Drop a comment, y'all. Drop some comments, drop some thumbs up, hit some hearts, okay? And any of your comments, we'll do our best to pop them up on screen. Let's get into some of these comments here. Let's see. How do I make this smaller so we can see more of the comments at the same time? Okay, let's see. We got quite a few here. Let's see. We'll go back some. John says, I'm spreading your name. Oh, it's too big. I can't see like that. He says, I'm spreading your name in the tactical civic circles. We'll get your name out there. I appreciate you, John. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your encouragement. It means the most to me. John also says, what does it say? I'm out, but not out. My children are coming to the bus. Okay, John, we'll see you when you get back. We'll be here. We're here till 4. Thank you guys, and I appreciate you all tuning in. Hit that share button. Also, you see the screen on the sides right there? If you want to help out, that's what you can do, or down there also, that's an option. Just make sure you're sharing. That's the most important thing, sharing and commenting. That helps a ton. Okay? Now, what we got going on in our country right now shows us how seriously we have to actually get more involved. We have to, because if we don't stand up, nobody is going to. And I want to talk about a very important issue to my heart real quick. Hold on one second. Drink water, stay hydrated. And I hope you guys can hear me on the radio. Also, if you're watching me on the radio, I know I just said watching me on the radio. If you're listening to me on the radio, you can also follow us and catch up on any missed shows on the Marcus C. Williams channel on YouTube. You'll find all of the shows right there. The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We got a whole podcast section. It's also in our live section. And there's a whole playlist for the videos as well. You'll find them all. So we got I believe 97 videos. This makes 96 videos. 2 of the videos have been taken down. We talked about too much serious issues. They didn't like that very much, so they took them down. I'm trying to get them the audio for those videos from the studio so that we can post those up there. Because sometimes you have really serious conversations and they don't want you to actually have those conversations online. Especially when you talk about things like cryptocurrency and the digital dollar being the downfall of our economy and the restriction of our actual value of money, because we can't have those conversations. That'd be too much right. And I'm all about having those important conversations, and they don't always like that. So we got a ton of stuff going on in the world right now. But real quick, before we get into more worldwide stuff, I want to get into an American issue. I want to get into the core behind our nation. What's that, you say? Well, the core behind our nation is Christianity, you guys. Our nation was built on Christian principles, Christian values, and the Bible. So whenever these people say, oh, well, it's Judeo-Christian, no, it's not. Stop. Full stop. Full stop. All 56 of the signers and stuff were Christian, okay? All of the people that signed the Declaration of Independence, all of the people that signed the Constitution, all Christians. But can we have that conversation? Our nation was founded on Christian values. And if you are a Christian, you already know that you never put a prefix in front of Christian because it makes it not Christian anymore. So whenever you hear somebody say Judeo-Christian values, you say, no, ma'am, no, sir. It is Christian values, period, point blank. Okay? It's very, very important. Very important. But that's the way our nation was founded. And people will say, oh, well, separation of church and state. That's a bunch of malarkey also, because we know that was in Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists, which was actually about making sure that the state the government, okay, not like the state, but in this case, it was actually Massachusetts. But the government as a whole doesn't establish its own religion like what happened in England, which is where they came from, because context matters, right? So what happened in England? England banished the Catholic Church under Henry VIII, and Henry crowned himself the head of the Anglican Church. And now still today, who's the king now? Philip Charles. King Charles is the head of the Anglican Church, right? And they didn't want that. It wasn't about preventing people that are of faith from actually being in politics. It wasn't about preventing Christianity from having influence in politics. It was about preventing the government itself, from creating its own religion. That is very much so important. And that was what the letter was about. And it was a very short letter to the Danbury Baptists from Thomas Jefferson, because at that time, the government of Massachusetts actually had a sanction to get into the government. You had to be a member of this specific congregation that was essentially state sponsored. And that's what we're not supposed to do. Okay. But people don't want to have that conversation. Hit the like button, hit the share, drop a comment. It don't cost you nothing. Let me get some thumbs up, some amens. Okay. It all helps. Now, as we have these important conversations, we need to understand that if our country, because it was founded on Christian values, because it is, we have moved very far away from Christian values, where now the concept is do whatever you want all the time. Whatever makes you feel good. That's the first tenet of Satanism. It is. Go look it up. Don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me because I'm going out my way to tell you. Okay? It's very important that we understand that concept of do whatever you want. You only live once. Nonsense is the first tenet of statement of Satanism. It also is like a core thought process of the god Dionysus. And this is a problem. Or even what's his name? Brachus. Very similar to Dionysus. I don't actually know that Dionysus and Brachus are two completely different gods. Honestly, I kind of think they're the same one, but that's a whole separate conversation. Now, with this type of concept being pushed in our society every day, push, do what you want, do what makes you feel good. If you think that it's right, it must be right, right? No, that's wrong. That's exactly against Christianity. The concept of Christianity, it says, deny yourself and walk a righteous path, right? Like that's a concept of Christianity. Like this other nonsense is nonsense. And that's why we have no law in our country. We have no rule of law. We have no morals. We have no values anymore because that has been stolen away because they've taken Christianity out of everything in our nation. And it's done a great disservice to our country, And now we've got all of these people who hate our nation, who hate Christianity, getting involved in our government and destroying it even further. We've got these people that are communists and socialists hate religion, any type of religion. The whole goal of communism is completely to be devoid of religion. So is the socialism. Because they know that if you have morals and values that are based outside of the government, then you might decide that the government isn't doing right and you might try to do something about it. But can we have that conversation? These are the important conversations we need to have, but a lot of people don't want to have those conversations because somebody's feelings might feel some type of way. Okay? Like we got to do better as a nation. We got to turn back to the teachings of Jesus Christ and to the Bible and repent so that our country can once again be graced and blessed by the Lord our Father in heaven. This is the problem. The Lord used to be at the front driver's seat of our nation. Now we put him all the way on the back of the bus outside the door, left him behind on the side of the road somewhere. And we need to come back to that because it's very important. And people are like, oh, well, the separation of church and state. We already covered that. That's not a thing. And then they're like, oh, well, it's in the First Amendment. No, it's not. No, it's not. Again, it's in the First Amendment. It says that they don't want the federal government to make a national setup structured religion. That's like these, like, what did Kamala Harris say? Oh, well, we exist in the context. Well, things do have context. And that's a very important context when it comes to talking about separation of church and state, which does not exist. It doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. It's one of the greatest lies in our nation. The second greatest lie in our nation, I believe. The first greatest lie is that Black Americans are from Africa. That's the first greatest lie. Okay. We are American Indian. But they sold that lie so that they can dispossess us of our land. But when you look at the Dawes rolls and a number of other rolls, what happened is we refused to go on reservations, so they reclassified us as Negro. And we still have the information on this stuff. You can go look it up. You can look up the records in most of the states, and you can look up the records in the Library of Congress. But people don't want to do that because that might actually change the concept and the thought process of our nation, because there are people that are manipulating the history so that they can tell lies and push certain narratives that benefit the elite and the establishment itself. But can we have those conversations? Because those are important conversations. Those are very important conversations. And I look at our country right now and I'm very concerned because we've got this Islamist rise, right? I'm not saying a rise of Islam. Let me be very clear. an Islamist rise, right? These people that are largely Saracens, people from these sand countries, okay? They're all sand, so I don't want to hear nothing about it. All the countries are sand. Okay, the whole Middle East is sand. Why is it sand? The whole of North Africa is sand. Why is it that way? Because they've been cursed by the Lord our Father, okay? Because they rejected Jesus. That's why they're all sand nations, because they're cursed. And now they're trying to bring their cursed nonsense over here to us, okay? They're trying to reform our government. They're trying to reform our cities. They're trying to reform our states to make them all Islamic caliphates. We cannot stand by and let these people Islamify our nation. That's not what our nation is supposed to be like. And these same people get out here and they jockey for these Islamists, and they're like, oh, well, it's about separation of church and state. Well, how about you tell them about separation of church and state? Hello? Can we have that conversation? Go tell the Islamists about separations of church and state. I'm sure they'd love to hear about it. Huh. Tell them about it. They don't care. They don't want that. They want Sharia law in many places. And if you look at places like Texas, Missouri, what's the other one next to Missouri? Michigan, they've got whole towns that they're putting together that are all only Muslim, that they're implementing Sharia law. Look at what's going on in Brooklyn. Like, can we have that conversation? Look what's going on in Dearborn, Michigan. Can we have that conversation? No, we can't have that conversation because it's taboo. Oh, you can't talk about that. Now, let me be very clear because this is important. Okay? I am not saying that people shouldn't be able to practice Islam in the United States, but I'm 100% saying that if they practice Islam, they should not be able to be holding office in our nation because we were founded on Christian principles and Islam does not recognize Christianity as the law. You understand what I'm saying? And people say, oh, well, you can't say that because then it sounds like you're saying that that's how things should be. It is how things were founded. Like, let's not, like the 10 Commandments are the basis for our laws in this nation. Like, what are we even talking about? What are we even talking about? Like, we're not even, like, stop it. Stop it. The first book that was authorized by Congress for public education was the Bible. Stop it. Stop playing in my face. Okay? Let's be for real. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Make sure you're following and subscribe. Drop a comment, thumbs up, a hey, hi, or I like what you're saying, or an amen. Drink water, stay hydrated. But as we have this conversation about the growing threat of Islam in our nation, understand it is not about people who are Muslim. It's about the Islamists. It's a secondary thing to the people who practice Islam, right? And let me be clear, because the Islamists seek power and subjugation of anybody who is not a Muslim. And the Quran dictates that if you believe in Islam, that you got to go along with those people because what they're doing is right. You got to go along with them if you're Muslim because what they're doing is right. That's how Islam works. So these Islamists that are pushing their nonsense in our country need to be dealt with expeditiously. They all need to be sent back to their sand countries, wherever they come from. You understand what I'm saying? Now, let me be very clear and I point something out because I think that this is very important and people don't understand. We have created a nation that has so much opportunity that people flee to our country that are Muslim. Let me be clear because I'm separating this from the people that are the Islamists, right? I was talking to some young ladies today and they're from Afghanistan. God bless Afghanistan, okay? May the issues that they have there be resolved. I really have some affinity for Afghanistan. I appreciate everybody that helped us over there when we were over there during the occupation and during the war. I appreciate that greatly. I also appreciate their strong tenacity of their people. I think that that's very honorable and noble. Now, these young ladies were Muslim, right? But they're leaving from over there because the Islamists are the ones that are in charge, that don't want women to learn. that don't want women in positions of power. Only in America can you have that as an option. So they were able to get out of their country and they were able to come here. And they're so thankful that they can be in the United States. And God bless them for being able to make it here. I know how hard it is for refugees to come here. That's why I'm so adamantly against illegal aliens. So I'm ever so thankful that we had a nation that affords them the benefit that their own country does not, that they would want to come here. And the conversation that we had was that they would love to go back to their own country if the government was changed, because right now it's under the rule of the Taliban. They'd love to go back to their own country. I double support that. You know me, I double support anybody wanting to go back and fix their country, because I'm working on fixing my country. I'm working on encouraging all of you and all your friends and everybody you know to stand up in our country to fix our own country. You understand what I'm saying? So I admire that. I admire that they want to go back and they want to fix their country, but they can't because of the form of government that's there is an Islamist government, and they refuse to even acknowledge any of the women, and they treat the women like trash, and they don't want them to read or write or anything. And we had a really good conversation about that, and about how the fact of the matter is what the real problem is, not that they want them in the kitchen or cooking and cleaning or whatever the case is, but the fact is that they had known the freedom of being able to have education and more opportunity, and that was snatched away from them, because that's what Islamists do so that they can maintain power. Like, you got to understand what's going on, and this is why it's so scary and terrifying what's going on with these Islamists in the United States of America, and why they must be stopped. They must be stopped. And I'd really encourage all of the Muslims from foreign nations, especially Afghanistan, that fled the Taliban and stuff, to stand up to these other crazy people that are out here pushing this Islamification and Islamist nonsense in our nation. That's what you ran from. That's what you escaped from. And I understand that they might be a little bit scared to stand up to that stuff and stuff like that, but somebody's got to. You know best how to, like, it's like the same thing with the people that escaped the communist countries. Like, who better to tell the people what the real problem is with communism or socialism than the people who got out of there? Like, you guys got to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. So when I say that I don't want any of these Islamists in government or any Muslims in government, because I know that when they get in there, they're going to try to reform our nation in their own image. Look at Ilhan Omar, right? She's like, oh, I'm not prioritizing America. I'm prioritizing Somalia. When did Somalia become the 51st state? Explain it to me like I'm 5. Oh, I'm trying to make Minnesota an all Muslim state. What? Whose flying monkey's uncle are you? Deport all of y'all back to where y'all come from. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing? Like, trying to recraft our nation and your nation. If you love your nation so much, go back and fix it. I'm trying to fix my own. Stop trying to recreate my nation the way that you want to see it when your nation is in shambles. Why is your nation in shambles? Because of people just like you, talking just like you, talking all the nonsense just like you. If you can't fix your own country, what gives you the right to come over here to try to reconfigure our country to look like your trash whole country? You escaped from over there. Why'd you come over here? Because it wasn't good over there. So go back over there if that's your priority. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody needs to stand up and say something. Because we give these people an opportunity to come here as a nation that is separate from their own, that has the ability for them to have freedom. But these Islamists stamp and stomp all upon it. We can't have this. We can't allow this to go on. It's one of the biggest threats that we have internally to our nation, but people don't want to have that conversation. And when you do, they want to feel some type of way or whatever the case is. No, this is a Christian nation, and we afforded all of these Muslims that wanted to escape their own countries to come here to a more prosperous nation, to a more stable nation, so that they can either prepare themselves to return home and fix their own homes, or to build a new life here, not to change our country into what they want. You understand what I'm saying? That's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Hit the like button, hit the share button, drop a comment. It don't cost you nothing. And if you're watching us online, check out right on the sides right here. If you're in horizontal format, check those out. And if you're in vertical, check out right down there. All right. So as we have this conversation, make sure that you're commenting, make sure that you're sharing. It's ever so helpful. Now, be part of the conversation because this is an important conversation. We must restore our nation to Christianity, or there will be no other place on the earth for these people to run to. Look at all of the death and destruction in these other nations, and where do they run to? They run to Christian nations. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy what's going on in Ireland or England or France. You know what I'm saying? Spain seems to be doing all right, but they had to kick the Muslims out of there one time already during the Reconquista. So I don't think they're too avid to let them really get a foothold out there. Same thing with Portugal. So we'll see what happens over there. But we need to be prepared for that in our nation, and we need to be pushing back now, especially all Christians. Then I got a rebuke for the Christians. You know, you guys, how are you Christian and you're out here voting for people that aren't Christian? Make it make sense. Drink water, stay hydrated. These are the important conversations we need to have because nobody else is going to have them. If not us, then who? It's got to be us. Hit the like button, hit the share. It don't cost you nothing. Now, let's go into some of the other stuff going on in the world right now. And if we have any time, we'll come back to this because this is a very, very important topic. See if I can fix the camera. All right. So the issue with Taiwan and Xi Jinping from China, the premier of China. Actually, I don't know what he is. The king, you know, essentially he's the king. I don't know whether he's the premier or the president or whatever he is now. I don't know. He hopscotches back and forth. But he's the grand supreme ruler of China right now. And he wants to go into Taiwan and take over Taiwan. Now, some people say, oh, well, Taiwan's not its own independent country. Well, Taiwan is the national version of regular mainland China. So they're an actual nation that used to exist on mainland China, but it's their contiguous, I guess you say contiguous, right? Which is like continuous, but contiguous because it's keeping in order of government from the nationalists when the nationalists ran mainland China before they got pushed out by the Maoists and communists. So that's why the CCP right now runs mainland China. And the US is like, oh, Taiwan, you know, they're one of our greatest allies. We got to defend them from China. No, you're not about to do none of that. Stop playing in my face. We're not going to war over Taiwan. Stop playing in my face. We're not. It costs us too much resources. Don't make no sense. Now you can say, oh, well, we want to protect the corridor right there in the South China Sea or whatever the case is, or in the Japanese, the Western Sea, whatever it's called, however you want to say it. But you can say that you want to protect that. No, nobody's really going to do that. Like, you're not going to commit the troops and the stuff to do that. Like, Taiwan is not the United States of America, and we don't even really officially recognize them as a nation independent of mainland. Can we have a serious conversation about that? And China's got a big sticking point on that because that's been part of the sale of Xi Jinping for years, that he's going to actually retake Taiwan. And he will. They're preparing. They're building up their army and military to do that. And the U.S. is like, oh, well, we're going to. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's why you're reshoring all of your manufacturing for chips and stuff like that. That's why it's important that we get the adequate people to work these jobs and positions, and we actually have them start training youth and young adults for these positions so that people can get those jobs, because nobody's training to be what do you call it? There's some of the names for the different jobs that they have, that they make these microchips. I forget some of the names, but like nobody has training for that. Nobody's going to school for that. Like, that's not a school even, you know, like, so we need specific trainings for that. Now we'll see what happens with talking about foreign countries with Venezuela, because Maduro has allegedly said that he's willing to step down if it brings peace to the country. So we'll see what happens there. I'm very interested in seeing what happens there. I was reading some stuff and things like that, talking about how really it's not the cartels that run stuff in Mexico. It's really Venezuela. Now I don't honestly know how true that is, but when you look at the fact that MS-13 runs the death train in Mexico, you got to start asking yourself questions. Is it? Who really runs what? Who runs what? You know? It's a very interesting question. So we'll see what goes on over there. I'm interested in seeing because I don't think he's stepping down. Also, I don't trust that weird lady that they just gave the Nobel Peace Prize to, talking about, oh, she's supposed to replace Maduro. I don't trust her. Something scuzzy about her. I don't like it, not even a little bit. So we'll see what happens. So that's what's going on. Now, we talked earlier in the show about how these leftists are pushing the government to expand even more as far as power and authority when it comes to policing operations. So Kash Patel's girlfriend, whatever her face is, okay, the fake country music singer, okay, Alexis Wilkins, yeah, Wilkins is apparently there's an issue with, oh, people think that she's a honey trap or she's a Mossad agent or whatever. How did she get with him or whatever the case is? Bro, I don't know how she got with him. I got plenty of questions around that myself, but it's very interesting the what's going on there. And he apparently wanted like the FBI to provide a protection detail for her. Why does she need a protection detail, right? Why are we, the taxpayer, paying for your girlfriend's protection detail? I don't want to pay for her protection detail, okay? And I don't know whether she's a Mossad agent or not. Honestly, I don't care, but she's a highly suspicious character, and there needs to be some sort of investigation into her. That's a fact. I don't know, bro. I don't know where he dredged her up at, but something don't seem right about their relationship. It all seems very sus to me. Like maybe she's his handler. I don't know. I don't have a clue. She very well could be his handler. Like, have you ever seen them together in person? Like there's something just very not quite right. You can't put your finger on it about their relationship. Like I don't know what it is. But something's not right there. They don't really seem like buddy or lovey-dovey or whatever the case is, but it's very interesting. I don't know, like other people are saying, maybe she's a Mossad agent or whatever the case is. I don't know if that's true, but there's something very off about her, and I can't put my finger quite on it. Like maybe it's over here or maybe it's over there. I don't know. A little bit weird. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on right now in American politics and what's going on worldwide, because the world looks to us as a force of strength. They do. But if we've got all of this division inside our own nation, if we've got these Islamists trying to tear down our nation, if we got these crazy cuckoos pushing stuff against our law enforcement and nonsense like that, it's a bad look. And the rest of the world looks at that like, y'all can't even get it right yourself, and you're supposed to be this big world authority. How are we supposed to project power and authority when we can't even control what's going on in our own house? Somebody make it make sense to me. Drink water, stay hydrated, y'all. Somebody make it make sense. But nobody's trying to make it make sense. It's very, 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 very concerning that we're not having a serious conversation on the fact that we are the world's strongest power, and in order to stay that way, we must be able to project power. But when we've got all of these weapons and the military industrial complex and all of that, but inside our house, we got rioting and people acting up and foreign people influencing our elections and stuff like that, we're not having real serious conversations. Now, I'd be interested to find out if Trump is having a real serious issue with this Maduro situation has anything to do with the 2020 election. Because if you guys remember, I forget the other name of the other company. Oh my goodness, what was it? Smartmatic, right? The Smartmatic machines and stuff like that were always said to be done by programmers that were originally from Venezuela, that was done through a shell company. That was also the other company. Oh my goodness, what are those other machines? We got those machines now. I forget what they're called. Y'all know the machines. Drop the name of the machine company in the comments. Drop that down there. But yeah, so Smartmatic and the other company, I forget the name of it. It's slipping my mind for some reason. But yeah, apparently both of those companies were Venezuela shell companies, and we're all attached to Venezuela. So it'd be interesting to find out if this has something to do with it behind the doors. You know, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Q says this, and they're talking about the QAnon nonsense. I think the QAnon nonsense is a bunch of government psyop run by the CIA and the FBI, as well as the elites, in tandem to prevent the people from standing up and to prevent them from overthrowing the government. I believe that that's what it was all about, because they saw that people were getting real antsy, and if they gave them a little bit of hope, that they wouldn't take any level of action. Okay, so if anybody talks about, oh, overthrowing the government or not, whatever the case is, no, you missed your chance. It's over. The next time that anything like that possibly comes up, it's only going to be after massive death and massive bloodshed. That's where we're at. Frankly, you look at now, they got Blue Anon, you know, the Democrats' version of QAnon. They're like, the elections were stolen. But these are the same people that told us the elections were safe and securest elections ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't even listen to these people to take them serious. Like, we need to be having real conversations, like, but nobody wants to. We have to recognize that the government itself is against the people. That's why we need to limit the power of the federal government, especially, and of the state level government, to re-empower the people, to re-empower the citizens. It's all about the divine sovereign individual, because we were blessed from God with our own individual rights as creations from the Creator. That's why we have the Bill of Rights. That's why this stuff is so important to have these real conversations about, when it goes back to why we shouldn't have anybody that's not Christian in these offices. Like, it all rolls together. All of this is about power and control. We look at why they let all these illegal aliens into our country. It's very, very simple, because they want to use them as a buffer to prevent people in the middle class from moving up to the high class in the social economic scheme of things. They also want to use it to eviscerate the middle class so that people are more dependent on the government. Again, it's about power, and that keeps the government in power. They can also use the illegal aliens as a mercenary force against us as the people, because, well, they don't have allegiance to our nation, you know, and that's a very, very, very important conversation to have. We need to have more of these important conversations. So please hit the like button. It don't cost you nothing. Hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. And if you're not following and subscribed right now, hit that subscribe and follow button. Make that bell ding. Drop some comments. The comments help too. Okay. And if you're following us online, see the sides right here. Check that out. And if you're vertical, right down there. Okay. So this is important to have these important conversations. A couple of other things that I want to hit on. We only got a couple of more minutes here. I wonder if we get enough time to get them all in. Is this nonsense with Ukraine, right? So the nonsense in Ukraine is very, very important to talk about, because there's a Ukrainian peace deal on the table right now. Russia's agreed to it. Many of the ministers in Ukraine agreed to it. And now all of a sudden, France is like, no, we don't want to do that. Germany's like, no, we don't want to do that. Who the heavens gevens are you to tell them that you don't want to do that? You are not Ukraine. You do not have the best interests of the Ukrainian people in your thoughts or in your prayers. Like, you know, like they say, thoughts and prayers. Y'all don't really care. Like, you don't care about the Ukrainian people. Somebody got to care about the Ukrainian people. And the president of the United States is trying to actually give them some rest. You know? Oh, well, we don't want the Ukraine to concede any of the territory to Russia because it'll hurt their pride. Excuse me? Who's stupid? Who's stupid? You don't want them to concede any of their land because it'll hurt their pride. Are you dumb? And then you'll hear other people say, oh, we don't want Ukraine to cede any of their land because it'll just embolden Russia more. Are you dumb? Like, you don't know the history of Ukraine at all. Like, you don't even know the recent history of Ukraine. And see, the fact of the matter is I don't expect most individuals on the street to know the immediate history of Ukraine since the fall of the Warsaw Pact. Okay, but I do expect these people that are in power, especially in Europe, to know the history. Plus, all of them are decades older than me, twice, 3 times older than me. They lived through the fall of the USSR. They know what time it is. They know what happened. They know the promises that were made on no NATO expansion if they broke up the Warsaw Pact. Honestly, I think that Russia should have never broke up the Warsaw Pact. I think that was a dumb idea, and that's led to a number of issues in places like Afghanistan. That's the reason why Afghanistan's so jacked up now. Okay? That's the reason why we've got all these issues in these other stands. All of the other stands were pretty much part of the United Soviet Socialist Republics, you know? Like, but can we have those serious conversations? Nobody wants to have those conversations. And they're like, oh, well, we don't want to give up any of the land. You don't want them to give up any of the land. Why? Why? The area in the Donetsk, I'm not saying it right today, but you know what I'm talking about. In the Donbass over there, Luhansk and Donetsk, I'm not pronouncing it right, but the Donbass over there, like that was already an autonomous zone. It was supposed to already have autonomy from the greater whole of the nation of Ukraine. Why was it supposed to have autonomy? Because those are ethnic Russians over there, which the government of Kiev, okay, under Zelensky, was slaughtering. Like, can we have that conversation? Or can we have the conversation about how Zelensky was purposefully bombing churches, raping nuns, and putting priests to death and putting them in jail? Like, can we have those conversations? We can't have those conversations? Nobody? Like, nobody wants to talk about that. Like how Zelensky was having the military shoot any males that were running away from the front lines, like you'll fight or you'll die type of situation. Can we have that conversation? Trump calls the war over there a meat grinder. It's nothing but that. It's so sad, the ridiculous loss of life for no real reason. No real reason. So we got all of these people talking about, oh, we're from France or we're from Germany or we're the British and we don't want them to do that. Who are you to say what's best for the Ukrainian people? You don't care about those people. Stop lying. You know what these people are going through, and how come none of the resources and all of the clothes and all of the stuff? I was talking to a Ukrainian friend of mine and she was like, yeah, you know, all of the clothes and stuff that they send over there, talking about they're donating them, the government takes them, and people that are in power, because there's so much corruption over there, people that are in power, they take them and then they show up at local grocery stores for sale. How's that work? How's that work? Make it make sense. But these countries, other foreign leaders don't care about Ukraine. They're using it as a tool to weaken Russia so that they can continue their globalist agenda. You know, pray for Poland and for Hungary. Okay, may they stay strong. I don't know what we're going to do with Slovakia and what's going on there. I don't know. Pray for them that they stay strong and separate more so from the European Union, which has this whole globalist NATO nonsense agenda and the United Nations agenda. So these are very serious things that we need to have conversations about, but people don't want to have those real serious conversations. You know, and lastly, before we get out of here today, I want to talk about the Muslim Brotherhood, because I've been seeing people talk, oh, well, Trump's about to label the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Do you even know who the Muslim Brotherhood are? You know, like they were in power in Egypt. They basically were the ones who overthrew the government. And then they were like killing people in Egypt. Like it was bad. Like it was a real serious problem. And they had a similar branch of them in Palestine, and that was a real serious problem. And that's not even to point out that a number of other countries that are Muslim nations have labeled them as a terror group already. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, I believe also Jordan and Lebanon as well, and a couple of other ones. Like, can we have that? Kuwait, that was the other one. And these are the conversations that we need to have. Like, it's a terrorist organization, but people hear, oh, well, it's called Muslims, so we got to protect the Muslims. Y'all don't want Sharia law. What are you even talking about? Like, those people are akin to ISIS. They are literally akin to ISIS. They are the kin of ISIS, but that's a whole separate conversation. But we need to have these conversations, and nobody's really having them. And to close off the show today with our last topic, the meeting between Trump and Mondani. Now, as you guys know, I'm a conservative, okay? I'm a conservative Republican constitutionalist that's an anti-federalist futurist. You know, that's a lot of fancy words, right? But the fact of the matter is it's so hard to express your political beliefs where you lie, because no one party, as we were talking about in the beginning of the show, really represents anybody anymore. So I got to stand where I stand. Now, Trump brought Mondani, this socialist, foreign Muslim guy who's a millionaire elite, okay, into the White House after he's been saying all types of trash about him, talking about he's a despot, he's a what do you call it? What's the other word? He's a fascist, he's a this, he's a that. He doesn't like him and all of this and all of that. And Trump brought him into the office and was hugging him and patting him on the shoulder and saying, oh, I'd move to New York under him. Are you stupid? Who's stupid? Are we stupid? We must be stupid. Listening to some nonsense like that. And people say, oh, Marcus, how can you say that about what Trump did? Because did you watch the same thing that I watched? Who's stupid? That was a bad look. No matter what way you cut it, that was a bad look for us. And they're like, well, he's playing 4D chess. I'm not trying to hear a lick of spit about what you're talking about, because it's about perception. Do you know how bad that looked? Did you read the newspaper articles? Okay, did you look at how it was phrased? Even in the New York Post, which is usually just a conservative-based newspaper. It's crazy. Like, they're like, oh, Trump kowtowed to Mondani. They're like, oh, Trump praises Mondani because he did. He really did. Say, oh, he's such a great guy. You know, I really like him. Like, are you, what? What are you saying? But can we have that conversation? No, because Trump is infallible and he can't be questioned. Shoot, if I'm questioning the Pope, I'm going to question the president too. Sound crazy. Like, none of these people are the voice of God on earth, the representatives of God on earth. The Pope out here throwing freaking raves in churches, okay? And if he's out here doing crazy stuff and I'm going to call him on his nonsense, I'm going to call the president on some nonsense. This just gave empowerment and encouragement to the Muslims that are Islamists, to the foreigners that are trying to topple our government, to the socialists that are trying to topple our government, to the communists that are trying to topple our government, and to the people that are Democrats, mostly far left, but also regular Democrats too, that hate Republicans and him. And him. Like, that was a bad, terrible look. Okay, and I don't care how much you love him or how much you think, oh, well, it was this plan and this strategy. It's about psychological impact. Psychological impact, who won there? Mondani won, okay? News and publicity-wise, who won there? Mondani did. Then Trump's talking all this trash about him. The dude is a whole terrorist, okay? And you out here negotiating with terrorists? Like, and this is after he brought in that terrorist from Syria who was on the Al-Qaeda's top watch list, who was one of the heads of ISIS, okay? That's now the president of Syria, because we installed him over there, because Israel told us to install him over there, okay? And you brought him into the White House on Veterans Day. On Veterans Day. You brought that terrorist into the White House. Now you got this other terrorist in there. Also, the terrorist, whatever his name is, from Syria, the president over there, first thing he did when he got into office was kill tens of thousands of Christians. Stop playing in my face. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we really need to have a serious conversation where we check our own people. I want the Democrats where I live to check their own people. Where them tens of millions of dollars that is magically disappearing from the pension fund for our actual people that work for the city government? Where's that money? How come that money wasn't shown up and reported before the election on November 7th? How come that didn't happen? Who was pushing the papers around so that wasn't publicized? These are real conversations we need to have. Where is all the money to pay the teachers and the people that work in the district in the RCSD? Where's that money? How come that money's disappeared? Okay, and they're like, oh, well, it's just a programming glitch error because we switched the billing people. Nonsense. Okay, don't play with that nonsense in my face. Okay, you stole that money or you lost that money, you put it in a bad investment and it's gone. And you just trying to stave off by switching money from different accounts and this way and that way and the third. And that's why them people ain't been fully paid yet. And this been going on since the summer. Come on now. Stop letting these people play in your face. If you're a Democrat, you need to call the Democrats out on their BS. Okay, and empty promises. If you're a Republican, you need to call the Republicans out on their BS and empty promises. And when either of your sides, okay, are going against the Constitution, are trying to empower the government with more power, you need to be standing up. And that's point blank, period. I love you all. Please share this show. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. This is The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. You are listening on 106.3 FM and on the Marcus C. Williams channel on YouTube. So make sure you share, like, drop some comments. All of that helps. Hit the heart button, hit the thumbs up. Okay, get this message out there because we need to have these important conversations. And if you're listening to us on the radio, make sure you tell your friends, your family, your enemy, and everybody else. Tune into our show Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. I'll catch you guys next week. You guys be blessed and be well. And remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Catch you guys later. All right, you guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in online. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you share this video out. Tell some of your friends. And if you're not, I know a lot of you guys watch, but you're not subscribed or following on whatever you're watching us on, whether it's X or whether it's Facebook or YouTube or whatever, make sure you subscribe. And if you have a YouTube account, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube. It's the Marcus C. Williams channel. And then that way you'll get all of the updates on everything I've got going on and all of the events and different things that we've got going on because we got a lot going on. And before I get out of here, definitely check out these two sides of the screen. Drop a support, a couple of dollars to support the show. If you're on vertical or horizontal, it's right there. If you're on vertical streaming, it's right there. Okay, I'll catch you guys later. I love you all. You guys are fantastic. I appreciate your great support. I'll catch you guys. Be blessed and be well.